Let's talk to Dave Buttery. Now, Dave is from Auriga Astronomy, which is a mobile planetarium that's been beaming around the southwest since 2001. Tell us about the planetarium, first of all, Dave. How does it work?
Well, afternoon. It's inflatable. It's a dome. It's not technically like half an orange because it has a vertical surface as well. But it's about 5 meters wide. It's about 3.5 meters high. So it fits into your average school, church hall, and I can get about 35 people in it when we weren't having COVID distancing and all that sort of thing. And the intention of it is that, I mean, in the southwest it's slightly different because I cover the whole of the UK, but in the southwest you get nice dark skies. But I can take this dome into the centre of London and I can show children the similar sort of sky that you would get on Exmoor or Dartmoor on a clear night. So it enables people to see what the real sky is like, not the light polluted sky that sadly the vast majority of certainly the UK get to see. And we teach them about how the sun and the stars and the planets and the moon work and about things like the meteor that just landed, which is the meteorite now, which is quite fascinating.
Yeah, and I guess what you are trying to do is spark that sense of wonder in the universe around us, and maybe things like the meteorite do that as well, because they get us talking about these things and they get us thinking about a piece of rock that has just landed from, well, I think an astronomer would tell me it's not technically outer space, but frankly, as far as most of us are concerned, it's come from outer space.
No, I think it is outer space. I think anything that's not actually within Earth's atmosphere technically is outer space in one way or another. I wouldn't disagree with you on that. But yes, things like this stimulate. Things like the SpaceX launch stimulate. And I think of all the sciences, a lot of kids at school get hung up on physics and chemistry and all the maths that get involved in it. But science is more than just that. I mean, science is something that anyone can love and pick up and enjoy. And astronomy, strangely enough, is one of the few sciences that still a huge amount of amateurs have an impact. Not so much these days. I mean, they used to be the ones that track the comets and the meteors, but now, of course, NASA have got satellites up there doing it. But nevertheless, there's still a huge amount. These people in Winchcombe, they could have just swept that thing up. It looked like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the photograph, it just looked like a lump of coal that had hit the tarmac of their garden.
Yeah.
Now, lots of these things end up in fields. I saw one come down 10 years ago across the M5, and it would be in a field in Hereford. You'd have never found it in a month of Sundays. So that it's so rare that something actually does this. But the people concerned didn't touch it, and they must have had some understanding, and that understanding has had to start somewhere.
Yes.
And maybe it was Patrick Moore, maybe it's Brian Cox, or maybe it's seeing something like this 30 years ago when the last one hit somewhere around Peterborough. And I think we have to enthuse the public and we have to enthuse kids. And sadly, I think the last 12 months, a lot of kids have that's the one bit that's missed. That enthusiasm, that touchy-feely, experiential.
Presumably, your business has been on the back burner for the last 12 months.
My business has been on its knees. You wouldn't believe this. I was actually in Cornwall on the 7th of January. I was due to go to a school near Penzance on the 8th. And at 8 o'clock in the evening, the schools were closed. So not only have I paid for a hotel and the travel and all the expense of getting there, but then they shut the school the following morning. And I just feel so sorry for the kids. Where I live, there's 2 primary schools nearby, and I think they've just missed out so much. You know, but that's a different issue, I suppose.
Yeah, that sense of wonder is so important.
It is, and that's what I think my role is to get out there and stimulate kids to like science, to look around, to understand what's going around, what the world's about, and where we fit into this huge, huge, huge universe, and the wonder and the awe that look as you looking up at the night sky and just thinking, wow, what's up there?
There's plenty of wonder around this afternoon looking at some of the messages that we're getting. Plymouth Jan has been in touch to say my most exciting space story, meeting Professor Brian Cox. It doesn't get better than that. Well, that's quite impressive. I'll grant you that.
I've never met him.
Oh, I'd love to meet him. He's one of those irritating people. He's brilliant at everything, I suspect.
Yeah.
But what a lovely man he comes across as. I'm going to talk to someone at the Science Museum a bit later on as well. I bet you loved the Science Museum, didn't you, Dave? I loved going there as a child. It was always a treat.
I think that's part of what got me into it as a child. I think I was a child of the 60s, so I remember seeing the first man walking on the moon, and that's what stimulated me. I remember my mother bought some posters off some cereal packet from photographs taken by Apollo 8, the first pictures of the Earth taken from the moon. And that's what got me going, and many years later I'm still doing it. I've got a story for you. You were asking people about something special, a special moment.
Yeah.
I've got one for you. When the Huygens mission, Cassini-Huygens, went to Saturn, I was involved in some of the outreach project. And when Huygens landed on Saturn, it was about 10 o'clock in the evening, UK time. And I got an image came through on my computer. It was about the size of a postage stamp. Seriously, it was a tiny little thing. And it was the first picture ever taken of the surface of Titan. And the hairs went up on the back of my neck. Because for the first time, I was one of the few people, well, a few thousand people, but that NASA sent out this picture to live of the surface of a world that no one had ever seen before.
Wow. That's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tiny little, it literally was about the size of a postage stamp.
But you know what? It doesn't matter, does it? It was an image taken on the surface of another world. Yeah.
It's like the first pictures that came back last week from Mars. It's wonderful. And there's so much, people complain about the money that's spent in space, but a lot of it has offshoots. It's another story, we could go for hours, but a lot of it has offshoots into how our daily lives work here on Earth.